Now, about 8,000 kilometres ago, or approximately 5,000 miles, I installed a set of Black Magic brake pads to the front of the 2J. Today we're going to go over what they've been like through that period. Stay tuned. Hey guys, my name's Daryl and welcome to this edition of Project 2J. Now, when we're modifying these things and we're adding weight, unfortunately we always tend to add weight. I mean, I've kept the hard top off this thing and roof racks and things like that because I just see it as needless weight. But the major weight we add is unsprung weight, and because they're a four-wheel drive, we tend to go to a larger wheel tyre package, and that really affects handling and braking performance. When we get to a 33-inch tyre on the 2Js especially, we start to notice some loss of braking performance. Now, if we then go to look at modifying brake systems, there's a couple of players in the market that do stuff. The major player, as far as I'm concerned, and the guy that knows more about 2Js than anyone else I know, is Blaine from Black Magic Brakes. He does an upgraded pad set for these. He does a complete upgraded front brake kit that you can get in a 15, 16 or 17 inch size. He states quite solidly that with a 33-inch tyre you only need a set of good rotors and his pads. He also states that if you're not happy with the pad upgrade, you can return them within 30 days and get a credit towards one of his big brake kits. So standing behind products like that I think is pretty awesome. You don't get that too much nowadays. I've no affiliation with him except for the fact that I'm on a forum that he's on. The guy just knows 2Js back to the front, especially brakes. You just listen to him, you don't question them, you just do what he tells you to do and it works. Now with these pads, he's done his research before. If you're in the US, he's got a package with a set of Centrix discs. Locally, I didn't see the point in importing a heavy item like discs when I can source a very good item locally. I've used a set of DBA rotors in their four-wheel drive version. The main thing with rotors is you don't want anything that's cross-drilled in a four-wheel drive. DBA slot their rotors. Why, I don't know. In a four-wheel drive, you don't really need it. It's supposed to prevent gassing on a pad, but you just don't need it in a four-wheel drive. So I've put on a set of DBA four-wheel drive rotors because there was a deal going. They're a really high-end rotor here locally, well-respected manufacturer, and I've never had a problem with them. Now, one thing I will say before you change your pads, just give the front brake lines a flush. It's worthwhile. They get a bit of crud in, you get a bit of crud behind the back of the caliper, and you'll see a lot of things online. I saw it the other day, some guy had a 2J up for sale and it was like, oh, it's got the typical 2J sticky caliper problem. That's because some of the crud's got into the pistons on the caliper. You haven't flushed it out before you've changed your pads. So we will be changing calipers and brake lines, but for this exercise it's all OEM except for the new discs and pads. Now, the one thing that differs with regards to the Black Magic pads over most pads nowadays is that Black Magic want to see them bedded in properly. You don't see that too often nowadays. Most people just throw pads on, and the pads are designed for that. Throw them on, off you go. However, there is a bedding in procedure with these, typical to a motorsport pad, and to get it right, I'll just read what he says, because with Blaine, you just do what he says and you will have no problems. Now, once you have these things installed, do a series of 5 back-to-back normal to moderately aggressive stops from 40 mile an hour, so it's about 55 kilometres an hour, to a rolling stop. Do not come to a complete stop, but almost. So just keep the tyres rolling. Do not ride the brakes during the brake-in process. Step 2. After the first 5 stops, drive around at normal speeds for approximately 10 to 15 minutes to cool down the pads. During this time, try to use the pads as little as possible. If you have to stop, do so moderately and then use the parking brake to hold yourself in place until such a time that you can proceed with the cool down. The object is to keep from imprinting a layer of friction material onto the hot rotor. Step 3, repeat step 1 and 2 again. Step 4. By this time the brake should be safe enough to drive normally and should be left to cool down overnight if possible. After an overnight cool down, repeat step 1 and 2 again. After step 5, drive and use the brakes normally. The stopping performance should continue to improve steadily until it finally levels off. Now, that may seem to be a long drawn out process after you've put a new set of brakes in. Just follow that to the letter. There's a reason for that, and you will have no problems. And the good thing is, if you do have an issue, if you have followed that to the letter, you can then go back to Blaine if you have an issue and say, well, I've done all that, and then he can take it from there. But just do it. Blaine knows his stuff, and you just do it. You don't question the guy with regards to brakes. So after you've done the bedding in procedure, what do they like to use on a day-to-day basis on a daily driver, which my vehicle is? I was really concerned with getting them because my experience in the past has been with motorsport pads, and the last set I had on my Renault Sport was a set of mid-range Padgets, and in the end I took them off because I couldn't cope with them day to day. With those, and it's typical of an aggressive motorsport pad, initial bite is really extreme, and braking performance is awesome, but they're not a nice pad to drive with on the road. These aren't like that. These are just like an OEM pad to drive. They have a really nice pedal feel, and braking across the board is just better all over. And Blaine's right. Blaine is right. With 33s, I don't see the need to have a bigger brake package than what I have. The back brakes in this thing are probably shot. I haven't replaced them. This has been in the family since new. We were talking about it, and it's like, I can't remember when they were replaced. You'd think at 200,000 kilometres they would have been, but we can't remember. And it was the same with the front brakes. We couldn't remember when they were changed. So at the moment, I've probably got a bit of a reduced braking performance on the rear. Your rears generally don't do a lot. It's the front that do the major braking in a vehicle. And at the moment, I'm still a bit up in the air about, do I put discs on the back or do I just rebuild the drums that are there? Because the drums work really well in these, and they're just something you don't really have to look after that much. However, discs on the back would be really nice because it makes pad changes and the like just so easy. Anyway, getting away from the subject, now there are a couple of downsides, very small, but it's to be expected with any performance pad. They do dust up more than standard, and over the period of a week or two you will notice a thin layer of brake dust on your rims. It's not BMW bad, it's nowhere near like that, but you will notice some dust on your rims where you probably didn't notice it before. They probably will wear a lot quicker than the OEM pads. How quick, I don't know yet. They don't seem to have worn much at the moment, and they probably will eat discs slightly more than the OEM pads. That's to be expected. But overall, I'm really impressed with these, and if you're running up to a 33-inch tyre, just get a set of these Black Magic brake pads, put on a new set of rotors, bed them in properly and enjoy. If you're running a set of 35s or over, look at one of Blaine's 15, 16 or 17-inch brake kits, depending on your rim size and what you can fit inside your rim. I hear the 17-inch kit is an absolute killer of a kit, but as Blaine says to people online, like, I could sell you that, but if you're only running 33s, you probably don't need it. And I completely agree with him. As always, with regard to the TJ brakes, Blaine is completely right. So that's it. I'm a happy camper. So I hope you enjoyed that today, guys. If you're looking for a brake upgrade for your TJ, I'll put the link below to Black Magic's website. He ships all over the world. There's no dramas with that. Coming up, we're going to be working underneath this TJ. I've ordered some stuff. This year most of the work will be underneath, suspension, axles. Yeah, looking forward to it, but she's pretty costly. Anyway, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed that, guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.